He kills Loki.
Well, yeah, all right. If he's even dead.
He's dead.
We're going to say he's dead. We'll say it for the sake of the show.
But what he was saying is that no Avenger, they're not willing to sacrifice.
It's
true.
It's significant because throughout the movie, all these different heroes are put in situations where they are not willing
One
to sacrifice.
One sacrifice would have stopped
Star-Lord
the
is
whole
not,
thing.
Yeah.
Star-Lord's not willing to kill Gamora. Cap is not willing to trade Vision's life. Scarlet Witch is not willing to trade Vision. Eventually, she comes to terms, I have to do this.
Right, but by then it's way too late.
And Doctor Strange is not willing to let Tony Stark and Spider-Man die.
Right. Now, we assume that that's because he's seen that at least Stark needs to survive. But still, the heroes are never willing. And even Gamora is not willing to sacrifice Nebula to stop Thanos from getting the Soul Stone.
Oh, yeah.
So these characters are constantly put in situations where they're not willing to do it.
One sacrifice would save the universe.
What you're going to see in an Endgame is a reversal of that, where they have to sacrifice. And I think it's going to be Cap because
they will have to trade lives.
Cap says the line, "We don't trade lives." And he's going to have to learn that there's only one way, and we have to trade.
And it will be his life.
Yeah. And it might be Thor's and
I believe that Iron Man dies with Cap. I think they die side by side.
Heart. I agree too.
But that will be a time when I cry. But that line just encapsulated.
And I think that will
everything.
connect both movies together with that theme of sacrifice.
Yep.
That now the Avengers, it's their turn.
You're even crying thinking about it.
Oh, I am.
I can see it in your eyes.
I could just picture that moment. Like, okay, even in the trailer, we never see Iron Man and Cap reunited. It's just the fallout.
Right.
That's true.
That moment when Cap and Iron Man are reunited to stand together.
After all, because you see it throughout the movie since Civil War. Iron Man tells Spider-Man in Homecoming, right, that if Cap wanted to beat him, he would have. And beat Spider-Man, he would have. Spider-Man didn't beat Cap. Cap went easy on him. And then in Infinity War, Cap says, Earth just lost its greatest defender, talking about Iron Man.
Oh, sure.
And so they still have this respect. Even though they don't agree, they still have this respect for each other that you're going to see played out in Endgame. If it's not played out, then whoever wrote Endgame has massive issues.
Oh, yeah.
Storytelling issues. So that was my scene. And I love the fact that he's even looking at the compass with Peggy's picture in it.
Yep.
Because it also plays in so many different ways because it shows, one, he never actually got over not spending his time with her. And it's been confirmed that Cap and Black Widow have a relationship thing going on.
They have something.
It's confirmed. They said that And so the fact that he's looking at her before what we can assume is the desperate play to win with, it would appear Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's character, right there with him, realizing that even if she did love him, he was never actually hers. He was always belonged to Peggy. Oh, that's going to break my heart even more.
I don't know if that would break my heart.
It's going to break everything inside of me. That whole scene. And I told Drucker, I don't think necessarily that we saw anything that takes place in the latter 2/3 of the movie.
I think it's all the beginning of the movie.
I think it's all in the first third, the first act of the movie. I think that was what the trailer was.
It wouldn't surprise me if actually the Stark scene is the opening scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if that's it, and then you see more Avengers,
probably is.
and then we see
if
Cap.
you had to go with a brief thing of who's going to save Tony Stark, who would you say it is?
NASA.
Okay.
I think it's going to be NASA as well.
There was something I was thinking the other day, how with how Nebula powered Yondu's ship in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yes.
I thought
How did she do that?
She,
I've only seen it once.
She
takes
her arm
into
and
her
connects
arm
it to
and
the ship, and she gives it power. I did think, okay, that's a possibility she could do for this ship.
Yeah.
Because I do think Nebula's on the ship with her. I think we see her. You see her in a doorway, and that looks like
it looks like the ship.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she's there with him. You have the possibility that Thor could use the Bifrost with Stormbreaker.
True.
And he knew they were in Wakanda, so I'm figuring he somehow knows that Tony is out there somewhere.
Hey, what is Tony Stark doing in a ship anyways?
Trying to get home.
That's the Guardian ship.
Yeah, it is the old Guardian ship.
That's what it appears to be. It's the Guardian.
That's what they confirmed as.
Which it wasn't destroyed or anything, so he's probably trying to just go home.
Trying to get home. And we talked about this, that the idea of fuel is not foreign to this, like in Star Wars Episode 8, where they're like, oh, we're running out of fuel, and everyone was like, when did fuel come into this? In the first Guardians movie, they talk about fueling up at nowhere, the fueling up the ship. So the idea of fuel is not necessarily out of the question here.
Right.
So it's highly possible that the ship runs out of fuel somewhere in space.
How does that actually happen?
This is when you call triple.
They never actually show them fueling up, but they talk about it, so you know.
But how long does fuel last?
They never talked about that, which means they could do what they want to.
Right.
And they could just say, well, they haven't fueled up since nowhere.
They could say it runs on jelly beans and love.
And love, and there's none of that on there.
I'm just thinking of this now. I think it makes sense for that to actually be the opening scene of the movie because you could recap everyone what just happened. He could go on about about we failed.
Right, that's it.
Snap. And you can, that way for people who forgot, who aren't us.
And here's the thing also, we don't know if Pepper survived the snap or not.
Right.
She might not have. Now, I personally think she did.
And I think she suits up as rescue.
Possibly. Very
I think
possibly.
it was a very key phrase when he was actually recording. He used the word rescue in his recording.
It wouldn't surprise me if Pepper's the one who comes to save him.
That's very possible. Let me nitpick that scene just a tiny bit for one thing. How in the world does he have a helmet? Because it should be nanotech, which means he shouldn't have the physical helmet anymore.
That's actually true.
Now, I'm not going to raise a big deal about that because I still think this movie is going to be excellent, and which means get ready for nitpicking.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me. Like, Marvel's done this. If there's shots in the trailer that aren't in the movie, Marvel's done that plenty of times.
That's true, too.
Some of it could have just been misdirection or just to have a trailer ready to present.
Right.
And some things might be different.
Right.
By the time we actually see
Maybe it's not the helmet. Maybe he's recording onto something else.
Yeah.
I thought the biggest thing that was shown, if you have to pay attention for this, though, was that Shuri's missing. Yeah, and you have to pay attention. There's one shot where they are looking at screens, and what we think is that it's all the people who are missing.
Well, all the people that are on the screens are people that we know of that either were snapped or Ant-Man who's in the quantum realm.
You see Scott Lang, which we know he's in the quantum realm, but you see Tom Holland's Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, and you also see, right before Peter Parker,
to him.
You see Shuri, and they're in Wakanda when this happens, so they know they have to have known.
Well, I don't think that scene's in Wakanda. I think that scene's back at the Avengers.
No. I'm saying when the snap happened,
when the snap happened, so they would know that she's gone.
So, and I think that was significant because we were saying about, okay, she could help them. Now she can't. I think it's going to be Bruce who has to help them because he's the smart one of all.
Now he's the smart one that's left until they get Tony back.
Oh, yeah.
That was a huge get. And Maddie Button messaged me on this. She can't be watching today because she's literally shuffleboarding right now because she's a 23-year-old that shuffleboards
with like old people.
She said, "Let me read this exactly." She said, "My dad, not my dad, but her dad, saw an article about the Avengers trailer and it mentioned the video of Scott at the door, and it says archive, meaning it's possibly from the past." So you know how in the trailer they go, I think it's Black Widow that asks, "Is this real time?"
Yeah.
Like, I personally think that it is.
I thought so too.
But if that's true, and I haven't, obviously she just sent me this, so I haven't watched the trailer again to check. But if it is an archived video of some kind, is that even more confirmed time travel of some kind? Is Scott, I mean, obviously they've got to get Scott out of the quantum realm at some point.
Yeah, but that's confusing because why would it be archived and them talking about it at the same time?
I agree. I'm thinking that it's possible that the archive is the pictures of the people that have disappeared.
Yeah.
But I need to watch the trailer again now to check that because I'm like
I actually, if I had a nitpick, I would say the Ant-Man scene.
Didn't have to be in there.
I wanted. Okay, they showed in the first Ant-Man he could just grow himself out of the quantum realm. Maybe that's what happened
when he shoves one of those disc things.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something that could have been left for the movie. How
could have been
that he is out.
I don't think it takes away from the trailer. I just don't think it needed to be in it either.
I think it needed that quippy, funny humor that everybody loves from that Marvel. And not saying that they love from Marvel, but it's such a bleak thing, though, where they're like, oh, this is all the demise, and if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. And
but
then
I
it's
don't
like
think the trailer needed that quippiness. the movie, I think the movie needs to be like Infinity War, where you
it will
had
be.
moments of levity, where a joke was made or something like that.
Sure.
But the movie itself as a whole is a downer movie.
It's
Is
gonna be a
heavy
downer movie.
I
Huge.
think Endgame needs to be like that too.
Right.
With obviously in the very end the heroes winning, but I think with the deaths of Cap and Iron Man and Thor and probably. And I personally think one of the three of Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Hulk, I think two of them survive and one of them ends up dying, that this movie has to have real, heavy, lasting consequences that drastically changes the MCU from this point going forward. And I think it will.
Yeah.
And those drastic changes mean stuff like Captain Marvel
Right.
and not Ant-Man, Black Panther and stuff like that taking over, Doctor Strange taking over as the main players in the MCU. And the only way you can do that is if you rid yourself
You have to get
of
rid
the
of them.
past 10 years of characters.
I'm going to start out with this question on David. Do you think that the not having Captain Marvel in the trailer was a smart move?
I don't think she's in the movie much. Whether my theory is this, and even if my theory is wrong, I still don't think she's in the movie much. My theory is that she disappears in her credit scene of Captain Marvel. That's no one believes me of that, but I think Marvel has the guts to do that. I think it would build even more suspense and leave the storytelling of Avengers Endgame down to the original characters. And here's why I don't think she's in it much, anyways. She had to film both movies at the same time, like Chadwick Boseman did with Black Panther and Infinity War. Black Panther had like 5 minutes of screen time. I think Captain Marvel gets more than that in this. I do think
At the end of the movie, though.
right,
Yeah.
Third act.
and I think she'll be on screen and she'll do stuff and whatever, and she'll interact with other characters. But I don't think for the focus of the movie is on the original characters. Mm-hmm. It is about resolving their storyline. So, and that's why I say if she disappears, it puts it down to them. You don't have a savior coming to get you. You have to figure it out, and it allows them.
So
to
if
resolve
she
their
disappears at the end of her movie, what does that do to you? Is it just like,
Well, I think
does it leave you mouth agape and you're just
I think
like,
it
man,
does.
what the heck just happened?
I think it does actually, because everyone's
Yeah.
expecting.
Of course, she's
Captain
gonna be the
Marvel,
savior.
She's been built up as the most powerful
Right.
hero in the MCU.
and
Yeah.
we'll probably walk away from Captain Marvel thinking that, hopefully, and
If they do it
like,
right.
okay, she could
Yeah.
she could beat Thanos easily. She could do this easily.
or at the very least, go toe-to-toe with him
Right.
like nobody else except for Thor has been able to.
And I think the most important thing with this movie is you have to resolve the story arcs of these original characters
Especially Captain America and Iron Man.
and Thor.
And then
then-
I would say even Black Widow over Thor.
Right.
I know Thor
Yeah.
is the one that has his movies,
Although
but
I do think Cap and Black Widow go hand in hand with their story arcs.
probably because they've been hand in hand
Since Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Even really since Avengers, the first Avengers movie.
I do think they go hand in hand, and I think that's the focus of the movie. That's why they chose these characters to be alive. And Captain Marvel just, I feel like she would take away from that story, especially if she can really do just about anything.
Here's why I don't necessarily think she disappears, because as far as we know, none of the remaining alive characters know of her existence.
Right.
Now, how they do that with somebody like Iron Man being alive during the 90s,
Yeah.
he's not Iron Man yet, but he's alive. I'm not
What if
sure.
we see a Tony Stark cameo in
You might.
Captain Marvel?
At
least like a kid Tony
They
Stark.
don't know
Yeah.
who she
Yeah.
is, and so they're not going to be expecting a savior
Right.
to come and help them. So I still think I agree with you. I don't think she has a lot of screen time, mainly because of the fact they're filming both these movies.
Right.
They were filming both movies at the same time. So I agree with you on that. And I think that this movie focuses not even around Tony. I think this movie focuses
on
more
Cap.
around Cap, because this is the Russo brothers, and Captain
more of a
America,
crescendo.
Captain America has been their character.
This is like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end of the Russo's trilogy of Captain America.
Right.
They started
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Winter Soldier and the Civil War and this. So this is the end of Avengers, as we know, and this is also the end of Captain America's trilogy with Russos.
Yeah.
And this is also the end of the Russos in Marvel for
At least
probably a while.
a bit of time. They've said
So-
they're taking a step back.
So
Marvel.
I think they go out with a big crescendo,
Right.
and I think they wrap up his story very nicely. And I think they have. I trust the Russos. I think they've made of the three movies they have made
yeah.
for Marvel. I think they've made.
They've made the three
best.
best movies in Marvel, in my opinion.
I think their ability with storytelling is fantastic. Their use of CGI and practical effects together is I like that a lot.
That's huge. Yeah,
I think it makes a big difference that they combine both so well.
One of our questions up by Jonathan Jarvis. He said, "What if Ant-Man found a time vortex in the quantum realm?" I mean, that's probably it's probably what's going to happen. It's what's going to take them to the past.
See, I'm not yet sold 100% on time travel, and here's why.
Right.
Time travel, of course, we're nerds. We've watched a good amount, at least I have. I won't necessarily loop you guys in. You guys can say if you have or haven't, but watched a good